Hello again, my friends. Let me say welcome to another session where we, the members of the Cricket-related Hall of Fame, sits down and look at sports, especially as it impacts us within our territories in relation to other territories, and give you an in-depth view, analysis, and factual response to what is happening. And this afternoon, we have our notables here that we are going to turn over to our host on this program, none other than Secretary to the Cricket Hall of Fame, the Honorable Dale Brown, as he takes over. Thank you, Dale.
Thank you, Sir Professor, and greetings and welcome to our panelists and also our listeners and watchers of this program. Tonight, I'll just give you a brief introduction of our panelists. We have Mr. Vernon Springer, very well known analyst, commentator, coach, mentor, you name it. But most importantly, Mr. Vernon Springer is a tireless voice, always advocating for change and improvement to West Indies cricket. And he goes back a long, long way. So when he talks, there's a lot of experience coming at you. And on top of the experience is a lot of knowledge and good sense, intelligence. And our other panelist is none other than Mr. John Melbourne. And you talk about someone who is versatile. Mr. John Melbourne is also a songwriter and a composer. And he has composed the anthem for the world's first Cricket Hall of Fame. And that is how versatile Mr. John Melbourne is, on top of being a very good football player for one of the top clubs in Jamaica back in the day. So we have some well-rounded individuals with us here this evening. So thank you, gentlemen, for coming. And of course, we have with us, and can we leave him out for last? No, but somebody has to be the last one introduced. We have the venerable Professor Sir Trevor Smith, the architect and what would we say, the conceptualizer of this program. And he's the convener of this program. We could go on and on and on, but marketing expert, genius, you name it, that's the Professor SosoBone to his friends. Greetings, gentlemen.
Thank you so much, Dale.
Yes, so gentlemen, if it were a poker game or any card games, it would be called a high stakes game. And if ever West Indies in recent memory and recent whatever, we have a high stakes game coming up against India in the ICC T20 World Cup. And we are going to ask John to start off with his impressions of this high stakes game that is looming large on the cricket calendar.
Thank you so much, Dale, and certainly thank you, Trevor, for inviting me once more to be a part of this discussion. And, you know, Dale, or maybe I should say Vernon, don't listen to Dale, you know. My club captain used to call my left foot the clutch foot. Anyway, a crucial game, yes, coming up against India on Wednesday, Sunday. And I am not sure why the changes were made in the game against who will us against New Zealand?
South Africa.
South Africa, I'm sorry. Against South Africa, New Zealand. South Africa, I'm sorry. Yeah. But I believe the team that played in the game too should be the team that takes the field against India. That 11. I have always felt that the 2026 World Cup is going to be won by a team other than Australia and India. And India is in the pathway now of West Indies on Sunday. And I believe we can beat India. India they have their Bumrah, they have the Hardik Pandya, the Varun Chakravarti. But I believe we can beat India. It's just that our batting will have to step up. Brandon King and Shea Hope has to get us through the power play. And then we can take it from there. But I think if Brandon King and Shea Hope can get us through the power play, India could be in a lot of trouble. It's not often you see Hetmeyer, Robman Powell, and Shorty and Rutherford all failing at the same time. And I do not expect them to fail against India again, all three.
Right.
Including Shea Hope and Brandon King. I expect 2 or 3 of them are going to put up their hand again in this game. It's a crucial game for West Indies, and it's the game in which we have to, if we're going to win this World Cup, we have to win this game. I am not one of those people who are subscribing to this thing about turning the corner. I don't believe in that turning the corner thing at all. But we need to win this game on Sunday. And as I say, get past the Bumrah and in fact, I think it's really only Bumrah, because Hardik Pandya and Chakravarti, I think we can handle them, but get through Bumrah. And we'll be in good speed. And I expect us to win.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, John. And Vernon, you're up. And again, the high stakes game, winner take all. Whoever loses, they will be out. So your thoughts on this game, Sir Vernon?
Thank you very much. And let me say thanks, Dale, and to Trevor and to John. It's always wonderful when you can be able to sit on the same panel with all of these legends. And I learned so much from you guys. I really want to be grateful that, you know, for my home here in Antigua and Barbuda, that I can come on a Friday night and make a contribution. We don't need to complicate life. We won't be here forever, and your time is too valuable to waste on nonsense. I say that when I look back at the West Indies management team headed by Darren Sammy, tinkering with the team. And again, it comes down to what we're talking about, where we listen to commentators and all of this data analysis and all of this matchups. And if something, just as we heard in the dressing room, if something is working, we don't need to try to see if we could reinvent the wheel to come up with another norm. If we were following during the ICC T20 World Cup 2026, we realize that Hussain has 6 wickets. Shamar Joseph is bowling well. There's been competition for places. We see upfield. I could never understood why any management team would sit down and decide that we're going to kick out Hussain, who's easily our top-ranked bowler in the top 10 of the competition. I couldn't understand the matchup. And if you're telling me that Moti is bowling better than Hussain, then something has to be wrong. So somebody missed a trick, because you first have to take into consideration that Hussain has been, as we would say, our opening bowler, contrary to what we would say on the conditions. So tactically, we got it wrong. But just like anything else, guys, none of us are perfect. And all of us are human beings, and we all make mistakes. So on that note, I would give them 1 strike. I hope that on Sunday, that we find a way to tell Mr. Chase, thank you very much. It was really a pleasure in having you being part of the team. But you will have to sit on the bench and look at the guys, take us through into the semi-final. Because contrary to what we might hear, and it shows you the standards that we have set, I think Chase is just a bits and pieces player. And when a couple of years, I have heard folks trying to say that Chase is like Marlon Samuels, or, you know, is the new foal for Marlon Samuels. It clearly shows me that a lot of people have not been watching the cricket and really don't understand the cricket. Because in T20 cricket, Marlon Samuels has 10 half centuries for the West Indies, while Chase has not even had 1. So when we're talking about oranges and apples, you know, and then he gets a one-off wicket now and again, which really doesn't fit into the fold. So I would hope that common sense would prevail and that there has to be a clear mindset. I know they will bounce back. I'm not worried, guys. I know they will bounce back. Win, lose, or draw. I know we will get a different West Indies team because it's a situation now where it's almost like you would say is do or die. That game on Sunday is considered to be a final. We have to treat each game like a final. And remember on our last program, I did say to you, we were coming up against the best bowling lineup in the T20 tournament. So we've been able to pass that best bowling lineup after we had lost 7 wickets in the first 10 overs to be able to bounce back and look at Romaro Shepherd and Jason Holder really put some, really respectable back onto our scoreboard. I have to give them kudos. What amazes me, guys, was because of the score that we had, I would have gone for a different option, and Shamar Joseph would have been my strike bowler very early. And I would have been riling up Shamar Joseph and saying, listen here, boss, I want you to bowl as fast as possible, but not only bowl as fast as possible, I want you to attack the stumps because he's got a deadly Yorker, which means that he would have been not short ball because it doesn't really make no sense for us to be trying to figure out that we're going to try and bowl short. The South Africans, we know like pace. But I would have had Shamar Joseph attack the stumps along with Shepherd to the point where we bowl wicket to wicket, more Yorker-like deliveries. If we get hit, so be it. But I'm saying that's where the line that I would have been attacking. Finally, one of our batsmen have to bat through the entire from 1 to 4. Somebody has to put their hand up and bat through the innings like Mr. Bennett did.
Yes.
When you have that sort of approach, Trevor Smith, who is the captain, is going to be worrying. Yeah, boy, the man on 60 now, and he 8 overs to go, and he's on 60, and he bat 12 overs so far. It's a psychological effect that puts pressure on fielding captains because we don't know when you're going to explode. And so if you have that kind of farm on you, and look at Bennett. Bennett has just gone about his business quietly for Zimbabwe. If you look at the innings, he was only out once, right? But he played within his limitations. So I am saying King, Hope, Hetmeyer, I would look to try to be able to make sure that we got to change tactics slightly against India. Rutherford has to come a little earlier. Rutherford has to come at 4. Doesn't matter the circumstances. We got to send a message to India. And if I'm Darren Sammy in that dressing room, I am saying to my team, only 5 people are batting today.
Aye.
You got to send a message to India. Only 5 people are batting today. And out of that 5 that is batting, one of you have to get a big one. I don't know what the big one is. It could be 80-something, it could be 90-something, whatever. But only 5 people batting in this game against India. And when we come to bowl, we have to be confident enough to know, right, that we're going hard at India. We can't back down from them. We gotta go hard at them. They're gonna come hard, so we gotta be prepared and we gotta be ready. That's my opening contribution, guys.
Thank you, Vernon. And Professor, you heard what the other 2 panelists said, and I'm sure you have your own to add to it. So please go ahead, sir.
Well, I kept on asking, where is Hussain? Where is Hussain? I didn't even know they had dropped him. I'm just wondering, when is he going to start bowling? Okay? Because as Vernon says, he was the opening bowler. And if I'm looking for anybody to give me some duck over and some duck ball, it is the spinner. Okay? I do not know what the record is on the for the team right now, Brother Dale, but I have to check as to how many of the bowlers who gets the most duck ball when in bowling. Because if I want to limit the other team's batting capacity, then I have to say, okay, between this guy bowls 5 overs, this guy 3 overs, this give me 3 overs, and for every 18 ball, S.M.N gives me 7 duck. Okay, 0 for those balls versus what I get from the other guys. And if I bat first and I'm about to look to control the numbers coming up from in response, then the guy who is giving me singles and zeros, I am looking to for him to play a more dominant role than the guy who's giving me 4s and that is giving up 4s and 6s. Okay, so this is where I kept on saying, where is S.M.N? When I see Holder doing his best, but they're hitting him, okay? When I see Shepherd doing his best and they're hitting him, and I kept on saying, where is S.M.N? Where is the spinner that normally goes out there and have the batters backing up? Because typically, I don't see them attacking the spinners too much in the beginning, as well as they might attack a fast bowler. Okay? Because the spin, until they read the spin off the pitch as to whether the pitch is responding or not responding. You know, how the pitch is treating the ball when it drops and from the spinner. They are very cautious. Okay? Very cautious, yes. The Yorkers are great because they don't touch the pitch, so you attack the wicket, yes. So you attack it from one side and you spin it from the other side and sort of see if you can get these guys a little bit confused. But when I could not find S.M.N, I was completely at a loss. When I saw Moti, and I'm not saying he didn't take a couple of wickets, but I'm saying, where is S.M.N? Because I normally see S.M.N more than Moti. Okay? And the second thing is, you know, I like to see Jason hold the bat. Okay? I mean, sometimes I just think that when he gets to bat, he doesn't have enough overs behind him. So he knows, he only has 2 overs to go swing his bat. Therefore, he's going for the bleachers because he has to. But I have never seen him say batting from number 4 position where we have, 12 overs lined up behind him and he say, okay, let me go play ball. Holder is a serious batter, but we don't get enough to see enough of him. And he's counting balls that are coming in. So he does not do any defensive batting. He's on the offense at all times. I would like to see Holder maybe at a certain point, move up maybe to sit number 6 or, number 5 or number 6 because he's more aggressive. Okay? He's more aggressive than the guys I see batting, some of the guys batting in front of him. But I close at that point.
Thanks, Professor. John.
Just before you bring John back in, I wanted to just quickly, Professor asked for some stats on S.M.N. Now, S.M.N in his T20 career so far for the West Indies has played some 95 matches, bowled 325.2 overs, 3 maidens, 2,408 runs, and has taken 92 wickets with the best bowling figures of 5 for 11. Now, if we match up, we know that he has 12 wickets against Bangladesh, 24 against England. He enjoys bowling against England, and 10 against South Africa. In fact, he's played 14 matches against South Africa, bowled 41 overs, 388 runs, and picked up 10 wickets. Now, Professor asked about the stats, and so I broke that down so that you could be able to understand the average.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm listening to the commentary. I'm trying to weigh up when they're telling me about matchups. And I don't know, Professor and John, you and Dale, you guys are a little bit older than me. I know when we're playing cricket, right? There are 2 things that we're thinking about as a batsman and as a bowler. The batsman is trying to score runs and the bowler is trying to get wickets. And it doesn't matter who you're bowling against. You could be bowling to a woofer or you could be bowling to somebody who strokes the ball. The cricket game remains the same. So these days, I find that we are overemphasizing and over-killing the aspect of telling me that John can bowl to Trevor because he's a left-hand bowler and Trevor's a left-handed batsman. So he ain't going to get him out, so we got to bring on Dale, who's the off-spinner, to get out the left-handed batsman. What? Since when the game has become so complicated? That's like telling me that Michael Jordan can't shoot a free throw. It's just madness, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Vernon. And you know, that's a good example of overemphasizing statistics, because when Hussein plays, he's, as you point out correctly, he's an opening bowler. So when you're comparing his stats with, say, whomever else, you have to understand that he's bowling with the field in, as opposed to having a defensive field set. And he's very effective, one of the best in the world at doing what he does, you know. But John, the last discussion we had, we knew that Shepherd was healthy and ready to return to the team. And the big question was who would get dropped? And we all thought maybe Ford to a degree, but we realized that they couldn't drop Ford because he was bowling so well. Now, I know you had your opinion, John, but were you, or how surprised were you to find out that it was in fact Hussein who had gotten dropped and Shepherd replaced him and Chase retained this place in the team? How surprised were you with that?
I was totally surprised because for the last how many series, Akil Hussein has been your opening bowler.
Yes.
And what is the reason then why you sit your opening bowler in a crucial game? Because it's crucial. And that game against South Africa for me was crucial because you win that game, you're in the semi-final.
Mm-hmm.
And you, as I said, I don't think they should have changed the team that played in the second game. Play back that team. Yeah, you might have, and it so happens that Romario Shepherd came in and shared in a record partnership with Jason Holder down in the order. That's how life is. But I could not leave out Akil Hussein
No, sir.
and play Ford.
No,
I
sir.
have to play. I have to play. I don't care who else you left out, but Akil Hussein should play and open the bowling because you play Ford and you open the bowling with Ford. Darren Sammy, I guess historically now relies on this so-called stat, and I think cricket has adopted, I think, this dependency on statistics from baseball. Because if you watch baseball and listen to baseball games, that is all you hear them talking about. As Vernon said, if a left-hander can't get out a right-hander, or a right-hander can't get out a left-hander, or whatever, why not? You're a bowler, you're playing cricket, you work out the batsman and figure how you can get him out. But don't just plant it in the bowler's head, or this is a left-hander and I can't get him out. I think it damages the bowler mentally. And you're going to the game with a disadvantage where, well, you know, I'm not going to be able to bowl to so and so because it's a left-hander or because it's a right-hander. But I was totally surprised that Akil Hussein was not in the starting 11. And I hope I see him back in his position come Sunday morning. And that's my take there.
Okay, thank you, John. Vernon, you mentioned promoting Rutherford up in the order, bringing him that early as number 4. What other changes would you expect to see or recommend to the batting unit, especially in the top order?
If we are batting first, I want to see either a Hetmeyer, a Brandon King, a Rutherford, or Hope almost batting almost all of the overs, whether we're batting or we're chasing, right? Mm-hmm. If we are chasing, somebody has to finish the game for us because there's an art in finishing games. right? Hope has demonstrated over the period of time, because I don't think we can leave it to anybody. I don't think we can say, oh yeah, John and Springer and Dale and so to come. In this cricket game that we're playing right now, you only have to look and see that a partnership could be going. And once a team picks up a momentum, they can put pressure on you and you can begin to lose wickets, and then you look like you're almost like you're panicking, right? West Indies match awareness is important. And so even the other day when Hetmeyer got out, just got dropped. Could maybe just give himself a little bit of composure and just have a look, because he know in the deep end that he could be able to catch back up, right? It's about awareness and how you adapt to the style. Yes, if he had gotten off, we would have been able to say, oh yes, what a brilliant knock, X, Y, Z. But I'm sure in his mind, he would know that, boy, I think I failed the team. Because maybe had I just waited, even when we send Chase, why send Chase and you have Rodman Powell? Because at the time, Rodman Powell likes the ball coming onto his bat. So all these are little tactical changes that we're looking at. But there's something in Sammy's head where he feels that Chase is the man, or Floyd Weaver or Sammy. They have something about it. They think that Chase, and like I said to you, Professor John and Dale, when I heard them in the 2024 World Cup talking about that they found the man to replace Marlon Samuels, I'm saying that's a big shoe to fill. Notice what I said, not shoes, a big shoe to fill, because they're completely two different players. When Marlon Samuels was demonstrated that he was a match day winner. Who are the match day winners in this team? The match day winners in this team is a Hetmeyer if he's going, a Sheho. Trevor made the point. A Jason Holder can take the game away from you in a whisker, because he can bat spin and pace. We know that Rodman Powell on any given day, and that's why all of the journalists who are looking at the tournament are telling you how dangerous West Indies can be.
Yes.
So you know you have different matchups. Even young Ford, he hasn't come into his own yet. And West Indies has not played their best cricket yet. And that's what I like what Professor SosoBone said. That for us to, our 7 batsmen that failed, and we got up to 100, over 100 and add, what happens if one of them click? That's all I have to say.
Okay. Well, thank you, Vernon. Professor, Vernon is saying something similar to what I've heard you say about the top order. And you have repeated it tonight. And again, in the T20, I believe, you definitely want at least one of your top 3 batsmen to be there to stay. We saw Harry Brook do it for England, not in this last game, but in the game before, whereas captain, he stepped up and promoted himself to number 3 and led from the front. And you see different people doing it. And if you don't get the one person, you need at least 2 or 3 solid partnerships. You have to stitch them together. So, Professor, with that in mind now, would you make any changes to the top of the order?
I keep on waiting for King. I keep on waiting for King to give us, to exercise his potential. I keep on waiting for King. And every now and then he show flashes, but he just has not cemented his position as an opening batsman. That is why the association of having Rutherford up there, maybe for a change, because I said, I like to see somebody goes outside there with hope, and you're out here to be the wingman for your captain. Okay? And when it's your time and the ball comes to you, forget about being an attacker. You're gonna play a defensive game to protect your wingman. So you're gonna give me that single and let them face up. And every time they face you again, you're gonna give them that single, run the pitch, and let them face up. Because up is the most dangerous weapon. And that is the man you want them to face. Okay? It doesn't mean that you can't, but you need to bat long. Okay? And you have more chance of batting long if you are playing the game as a wingman for your captain. Okay? So I say that King would be batting longer if he was comfortable being the wingman for Hope. Not competing with the numbers that Hope is putting up versus the numbers he's putting up. What you want to say is that your opening batsman, when it comes to over number 12, is still there. Okay? Your opening batsman is still there. It doesn't mean he made 100 runs, but he faced 34 balls. Okay? And he's still there protecting the wicket. And if you're only losing 1 wicket at a time, and one of your opening batsmen is still there, there's a solidarity in the mind of the team that they're not gonna get him because he's settled down. And when you're coming to the pitch with a man who has been there from over number 1 to over number 9, you're far more comfortable than when you have 2 guys facing and each of them has only faced 3 balls each. So they have not really learned the contours or the movement of the ball on the pitch. Okay, they have not even faced a spin bowler to know how the ball is spinning, how the pitch is responding to the ball. Therefore, quick as a flash, you find that they're back in the pavilion. But when you have one person there who you know has been there for the last 6 overs, then you can, as a new batsman, you come in with a more defensive game. So let me run the pitch and let the man who has been there for the last 6 or 7 overs face the bowler. So every chance you get, you go for a single and you run the pitch. Because he has been there from day one. He knows how the spin is turning. He knows how the pitch is reacting to the ball. And he can spend some time and watch and learn. Okay? But when you have 2 new guys there, suddenly look, oh, he's faced 3 balls and he says 4 balls. Before you know it, they're back in the pavilion because they're going there now in an attacking mode, both of them. And it does not bode well for us. Okay? I pause off here at this time.
Dale, I know, and let me just quickly good night to Gus, who's just joined us, because I'm going to run off just in a little bit.
Thank you, gentlemen. Sorry to be late. As I said,
okay. Vernon, let me just introduce Gus. Give me 1 minute. I'll introduce Gus. Gus, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Well, welcome and happy to have you, Gus. And for those people, the few people out there who do not know who Gus Logie is or may know about his exploits on the cricket field, but does not know about his extensive coaching resume and don't know that Gus is a Trinidad and Tobago Sportsman of the Year awardee, and do not know that he has been honored with Trinidad and Tobago's Hummingbird Medal of the silver kind. So he's a silver hummingbird, and that is on top of him coaching, and I won't skim the top of that, the cream of that milk, but he has coached Jamaica to regional championships. He has coached Trinidad and Tobago to consecutive Super 50 championships. And he has coached the West Indies to the ICC Champions Trophy. And I could go on and on, bringing Canada, bringing in Bermuda to the World Cup as associate teams. So everybody, Gus Logie is not just a batsman coming in at 5 or 6 for West Indies. He's not just a man fielding in the most dangerous position on the cricket field. He's a well-rounded individual. He's also an author. So we have a composer, we have a songwriter, and we have an author. So Gus, welcome to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Brother Dale, and to everyone, and Professor, my good friend, Brother Melbourne. I'm trusting that this evening's session so far has been really enlightening.
Yes.
I must apologize for my late arrival. I indicated that I did have a session here in Bermuda. As old as I am, and much as I'm involved with the young people, I have to continue to update my if you want to call it my CV, as far as the requirement for dealing with young people is concerned. Here in Bermuda, every 2-3 years you have to renew your SCAR certification. You also have to renew your CPR certification. So tonight was the CPR, and again, you have to make sure if the youngsters are in any difficulties, you know exactly what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and where to call for help, etc., etc. So sorry about that, but it had to be done.
No problem, Sir Gus.
Yeah.
Vernon, I don't know how much time you have left, but I would like to give you the opportunity for your parting words because I know you have to leave. So I'll
Well,
just give you an open forum there.
well, since Gus has come in, and I just wanted to make a quick change. Well, Gus here because I also want to get a feedback from Gus on the women's cricket itself. I don't know if Gus would have seen it. Sir S.M.N did an interview, I think with CMC today, and some of the things that Gus and myself have been talking about concerning the women's game. It's wonderful to know that she has decided to talk out, because one of the things, and I know when Gus did coach Trinidad and Tobago and was around the West Indies setup, it was almost a major concern for him as well, was the West Indian women cricketers dominating the regional tournament. You can't tell me that you're a West Indian player, but you're not dominating the regional tournament, but then you're still getting selected, and then we're still looking to ask other players to dominate when you are not dominating. And when I look at the 50 over, the just concluded 50 over Gus, one of the things that S.M.N indicated was that she says that she doesn't feel that the West Indies management team is promoting seamers enough. And she says she does not feel that DeAndre Dottin should be considered as a seamer. If you have Henry and you have Aline and you have Hector, you've got to be able to look to make an investment in those players to be able to go forward. So I was pretty much moved, Gus, in terms of her talking. When we look at the 3 matches, and sometimes you can say 3 matches, you really can't judge anything much from 3 matches, but it is what it is when it comes to the women's game. Taylor ended up with 131 runs, faced 198 balls, 283 minutes at the crease. She had one half century. The skipper, 126 runs, 100. Janella Glasgow was a new name. She scored 2 half centuries. She scored 100 runs. Outside of that, our best batter, who is Charmaine Campbell, she batted at number 3, and she was only able to manage to score 42 runs within the process. So when you look at that, and you look at Dottin, and you look at how many games Dottin has played over the last 2 years because of injury in the 50 over, I don't see Dottin and Taylor in your 2029 plans, which is what you're earmarking for. So we can look as if we're going to end up in a situation where these 2 players will maybe go to the T20 World Cup. They might, for the records, play the test match against Australia, red ball test match, and then we're left with an open void in terms of looking to build a team. I just wanted to get that in, because I was impressed when I heard S.M.N speaking about the promotion of the seamers as to the skipper deciding that she's going to have Fletcher. And the last program I said, I don't think that the team was balanced. It's almost to a point where at one point in time the West Indies was like 7-8 bowlers. And you can't go, you can't build a team if almost everybody can bowl and and some people can bat. I mean, no, that shows no confidence for anybody. Chanel Henry is the vice captain, but in the entire tournament, Gus, I think she only bowled 9 overs in the entire tournament in the 350 over games. I don't know. Dale, let me hear Gus' thoughts as I brought that up.
Okay, well, look, let's put it this way. I think the West Indies women team maybe spoiled for choices when it comes to all-rounders. They seem to have quite a few all-rounders. And if you are all-rounders, it means that you are able to bat and bowl. How you use those resources that you have will certainly determine exactly the kind of outcomes that you are having. When you look at Chanel Henry, she has had a lot of experience in the past year or 2 playing in the women's IPL. and she would have come back to the Caribbean and obviously feel that she's on top of her game. Unfortunately, her performances so far haven't really set the world on fire. But we know the quality that she has, and hopefully, maybe if she settles back into the T20, she may give some of those performances that she gave in India. You look at DeAndre Dutton, she's also coming back from injury, but they are senior players. There's no two ways about it. Afi Fletcher, is an all-rounder. Basically over the last 2 years, she has batted well in parts, and she's bowled well. You have Aliyah Allen, who's considered as well as an all-rounder. At one stage when Aliyah started, she was looking like a good, complete batter who can bat possibly high up in the top five, but her bowling has also come on. So she is being used now in the team as an all-rounder, possibly a bowler who can bat. You had Connell at one time in the setup. She's no longer there. But there are a number of young players coming through, really and truly, who can set the stage for a revival, if you want to call it that. The opportunity must be given to them. They sent 2 or 3 young players to Australia recently. Hector, I think, from Antigua, she's a fast bowler. She came back. She's in the team now. I think Glasgow as well. She also went to Australia and she came back and she has been doing fantastically well. And when I saw a clip of her playing, I was very impressed with her. Maybe she could be promoted in the order as well. Maybe she's batting a bit too low in that setup. But when you look at the team, there is a lot of batters, if you want to call it that, who have not stepped up in this season. You're still looking towards the Haley Matthews to produce. You're still looking towards the DeAndre Dutton and also the States woman, if you want to call that, and Stephanie Taylor to produce the goods. The younger players in the setup have to put their hand up when given the opportunity. I know over the last few years they have given opportunities to a young Zyler James. I know that Kiana Joseph is being looked at as someone who could power at the top of the order. Unfortunately, there are other areas of her game that needs really and truly to pay attention to. And I think we have, we have spoken about that on so many occasions. We really don't want to go there again. But certainly the team looks to me in terms of personnel, they seem to have a propensity to rely a lot more on the spinners, especially playing in conditions that may be conducive to the spinners, not giving the seam bowlers more opportunity to show what they can do. And that's basically a tactics situation that the team decides to use, possibly against the opposition like Sri Lanka, I don't know, maybe against Australia, maybe a different approach. But I think that basically is a situation because the overlining factor is that we want to win a tournament, or we want to win, a game, not looking possibly 3 or 4 years down the road, as you were suggesting. I think they are now looking at what is in front of us right now. We want to start winning games, and we feel these are the best options we have to win the games that we are involved in at this point in time. Instead of saying, let's spread it around, let's develop the fast bowlers that we have, let's bring them into the setup. Because I know there's a young fast bowler as well from the under-19 team who's also in the setup, whether she's in the 50-over setup or is in the 2020 setup. But I know there are a few young fast bowlers that are around the setup. Opportunities for them to play not only in these local competitions, but opportunities for them to play in other competitions outside of the Caribbean. Because one of the things we have always talked about is the lack of opportunity for our young players. The regional tournament is not enough. The quality of the regional tournament is low, and therefore it doesn't give the impression that the intensity is there, doesn't give the impression that the skill set and mindset is there. Hopefully, if they go to Australia, if they go to England, but that's about developing, that kind of relationship with these countries. I don't know that these countries will just open their arms and say, let's bring in all these West Indian women so that they could develop their game at our expense. At the end of the day, there must be some kind of, what is in it for me? So I think the West Indies Cricket Board is in a difficult situation. They have tried to have as many camps as possible. They have brought coaches from outside of the Caribbean to work with our players. So they cannot say that they're not getting good information if that's the idea from behind it. They're getting the information, and it's about them taking that information back to the respective territories and working as hard as possible. One of the things I've always said is that many of the young players now are being paid decent money, and if a young player, is lacking in a particular area, there's nothing wrong for these young players to spend some of that good money that they're making to get the help that they need. They cannot just wait on West Indies coaches or West Indies cricket or the Trinidad and Tobago coaches, or they are professionals in other areas with not in the structure itself, who might be able to help them even more than those that are in the structure, if you want to call it that. So there are professional people out there who will help these players in order to get them to the level that they want to, whether it's in strength and conditioning, whether it's in terms of the technique, whether it's in terms of the tactics, whether it's in terms of the mental preparation. All these things you got to understand makes up the whole, and is not going to happen possibly with a 2 week camp here or a local tournament there.
Dale, well, and just to support what Gus has just said, is while there was a camp in Antigua and Barbuda, there was no real match preparedness for us going into the series. And I don't, Gus and myself are coaches. I don't want anybody to say, oh yeah, they played against the Antigua under 17 or they played against the under 15 team or whatever. If we don't get our women's structure organized where women are playing against women, then we're always going to be up against it. And as Gus said, that is why it is important for Cricket West Indies to forge a relationship with the United States of America, because you would have been able to have an avenue where you could be able to say to the USA, listen, we want to play 5 games, 5 T20 games or 350 over and whatever, or we're going to bring the team to the USA to have some matches. Because Gus hit the nail on the head. England, Australia, those places are not going to open their doors for our young players. We have to find opportunities to be able to get people like the Claxton and the Zeta James and those players in environments where they can be able to develop themselves, rather than just say, we have them in the Caribbean. So if we get a young Jazara Claxton, a young Ebony Batwet from Barbados who's just been drafted into the T20 team, to go to England and maybe even one of the schools or one of the academies and learn the game, because sometimes you just need a different messenger. And Gus hit the nail on the head. Yeah, you have a messenger right now around the West Indies setup. But if they go to a new system where they're constantly hitting balls, they're being drilled. Well, if you want to learn cricket, you have to go to England, because the structure and the mindset is completely different. And what you would get away with in the Caribbean, you won't get away with in England, because there's a complete structured way. They're going to deal with your mindset. They're going to deal with your technique. It's also going to help you mentally as a professional. So when you're in the Caribbean environment, the pitches that we're playing on, guys, why are we playing on those spin-friendly pitches, those pitches that are low and low all the time? We just had a tournament being played in St. Vincent. The ball wasn't even bouncing higher than the stumps. So how are we going to get quality how we get quality fast bowlers? How are we going to get quality people? So Gus Logie Jr. might have picked up 40-odd wickets in a regional tournament. He gets selected for the West Indies team, and he goes to play, and he can't get one ball past the bat. But he's the #1 spinner in the Caribbean, based on the turf that we're playing on. So when he go to the next level, it's a problem. I'm saying, stop treating the women like bystanders. Give them the best possible tracks. We have to, just don't say, oh, here's a women's game, so we just carve out a strip there and they go and play on that. The same standard that we prepare for the men is the same standard that we're supposed to prepare for the women.
Agreed. No two ways about it. I'm concerned, though, in terms of you talk about the Australians coming to the Caribbean. I think they're scheduled to come to the Caribbean. And I am wondering if the same format will apply, whereby they will be just in one venue playing. It will rub, so many youngsters from seeing possibly one of the better ladies teams in the world, if you are going to just restrict them to just possibly St. Lucia or Grenada or wherever it is they're planning. Simply because, maybe because of financial constraints. I don't know if that will be within the best interest of our cricket at this point in time. I find it really, really difficult to see a tournament like this, where you have all games playing in one venue. You have the 50 over game that's completed. Now you're going to have a T20 series playing in one venue. I think it's I don't know. I don't know how many pitches there are on the square, but I'm trusting there may be a few pitches and they may have to move from one to the other. But what we have seen, they all seem to be playing the same way. And if that is the kind of cricket that we expect going forward, it's really not going to be exciting to look at. Granted that West Indies want to win, I have no doubt we will, and we could win with the quality that I know we have if everybody at the end of the perform to the best. But it's not good for cricket, really, until we at this stage.
Yeah, thank you, Gus, and thank you, Vernon, for bringing up the women's cricket. We are going to return to it before we end with the program, but I wanted to hear some more views with the T20 and then bring Gus in. So I'll let him take a little breath for a little bit and ask John, in this game today that was played today between England and New Zealand, if you got a chance to watch it, what impressed you most in this game, John?
The last 3 overs, because New Zealand seemed to be on their way to winning the game. And then I don't remember the pair that got together when they were 100 and what was it, 100 and something for what, 6?
117 for 6.
Yeah, 117 for 6.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, New Zealand seemed to have had control of the game. But what a difference a couple of sixes make in a game. and before you know it, in that I think it was the last over, that when they needed 5 runs from 6 balls. But it was interesting to see, as I say, what a difference sixes make in a game is when you're chasing, and how it seemed to change the body language of the fielding team. Who was it? Sutton, I think, at one point, I threw back a ball to him, and there was no point. I couldn't understand why he knocked over the wicket, and the runner was already way past the crease, But it seemed to be frustration that set in with Sutton. And I think New Zealand kind of just lost their cool.
Mm-hmm.
And so they lose the match. And England won the match.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, John. And I think that game, Professor, highlighted 2 very important partnerships. The partnership that John is speaking about, that was between Will Jacks and Ahmed. They put on 44 runs.
Yeah.
Yes, and Ahmed was just brought into the English team, by the way. And the earlier one between Curran and Banton, I think that was a 42-run partnership they managed to stitch together. But remember, what for me, Professor, is England recovered from losing 2 wickets for 2 runs,
Mm-hmm.
and they took their time. So I don't know if you saw it, but your comments on the sequence of events that led up to that last over.
Well, I question the closing, of the teams when they look at what might transpire between the first 6 wickets and the opportunity that you might give the other team to recover based on who is bowling at that point. Sometimes I see where when you say you want to get a wicket, you bring in a bowler to bowl an over because you want to get a wicket. Okay? And when that bowler is coming in, it's like the only reason why they ask me to bowl this over is because they want me to get a wicket. And that is especially when you have a partnership that is about it getting out of control. Okay? That is when you say that we need a wicket. We need to break this partnership. And yes, when 60s start flying, you have to, in baseball, they call it the reliever. Okay? Bases are loaded, and he was doing well before, but he's not doing too well right now. So Listen, if he's hitting spins, get somebody to hit him in the ribs. Okay, bring in your fast bowler and change the temperature. So yes, the most important thing I've always looked at is the partnerships where they start gelling together and how you break the partnership. And when suddenly you're doing pretty well and you let partnerships develop, listen, even in the West Indies game, when we talk about Shepherd and Holder, I'm saying to myself, if those guys had come in to 3 overs earlier and had the same attitude, the game would have changed. But they came in too late. Okay, and I think the same thing repeats itself with this game, where they could not break a partnership and it changed the momentum. Okay, and suddenly what you thought was an easy win, okay, becomes very stressful, and it's hard for them to change that mindset from relax to stress. And I never wanted to see England in the advancing.
Yeah, but at the same time, Trevor, talking about this match, and it's so funny, Dale, when you asked me about it, I was making some notes and I didn't know where I put the notes, and I kind of just found the notes now. That when Ahmed joined what's his name? Joined Will Jacks. And they were 17 for 6 from like 16.5 overs. That England needed 43 from 19 balls. And at that point, I think I heard a commentator say, well, when are they going to bring back the fast bowlers? Because these spinners were getting a beating. But they brought back the fast bowlers too late. And from 43 from 19 balls, before you know it, 2 sixes and a couple fours, that it changed the picture.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. And it goes back to Vernon's point about not just West Indies, but sticking to these matchups. You want this one to bowl to that one, instead of looking at game awareness and game plan and making adjustments as you go along.
Yeah.
So we will come back to this game, I promise you, and we have to look at the Pakistan match also. But seeing that Gus was not here, I would like to hear what he has to say about the high stakes winner take all game coming up on Sunday. West Indies against India, one. But before we get to that, Gus, our last program, we were talking about Shepherd coming back into the team. He was fit. And we were all saying who he would replace in the team. Did you at any point think that it would have been Akil Hussain?
No, but I don't think he actually replaced Akil Hussain. I think he came into the team. Remember when he played Akil Hussain actually played that game.
No, I'm talking from the last game prior to the game he missed. So from that 11, Hussain is the one who got dropped.
Right. Hussain got dropped in this game for Chase.
Okay, so let me put it to you a different way, Gus. Let me put it to you a different way. 11 people are here, and you come into that 11, and I'm the one who come out. You have replaced me.
Right. What happened? Remember?
Were you surprised that Hussain is the one who would have missed out?
Okay. So let's go back to the game, the first game, basically when what we were speculating as to the first game against Zimbabwe. And we were articulating that Ford had bowled well in the previous game when Shepherd was out of the system because of injury. And we were wondering as to who will be left out of that particular squad to accommodate Shepherd if he is fit and ready to go. Well, it proved that he was fit and ready to go. And they kept Ford and they brought Shepherd in and they left out Chase. Remember Chase?
Left out who?
Chase.
No, they left out Hussain.
No, they left out Hussain in this particular game. I'm going back to the Zimbabwe game. Remember the Zimbabwe game?
No, okay.
Right. We're going back to the Zimbabwe game. That is when Chase was left out of the Zimbabwe game and Shepherd came in, right? And Shepherd he played well in that game. We had a record score against Zimbabwe, and everybody was quite happy about the makeup of the team. And they felt going into the South Africa game would be a bit of a challenge. It would be more of a challenge possibly Zimbabwe. Okay, this is what happened when they played against South Africa. They then decided to bring Chase back into the squad at the expense of Akinhose. Reasons for that possibly were they look back on possibly the games in South Africa against, in South Africa when Hussein did not really cover himself in glory in those games. But of course, now we are saying fast forward, everything would have changed. The confidence was back. He was bowling reasonably well. He was opening the bowling. And of course, he's getting that early wicket again. And of course, everybody felt that that team will then go into the game against South Africa. Unfortunately, they decided, and possibly again with their data, and they look at it and they say the matchup, the off spinner seemed to get Quinton de Kock out. You hear them talking about that. He got him out in South Africa, and maybe he's susceptible to the off spin. Hence the reason why Chase was then brought into the setup, and Hussein left out because they say that there were a few left-handers in the South African team, and they may take to the bowling, the spinners coming in. Then they talk about the pitch itself. In that game in Ahmedabad, maybe it's a little bit more conducive to fast bowling and not, kind of spinning surface that they want. So these are some of the what you call the ideas and the rationale that they gave personally for leaving Hussein out. Now, my understanding is this. If you're saying to me that you're bringing Chase in because of the Quinton de Kock factor, then why didn't he open the innings? Why would you bring him in and not open the innings so that you could get Quinton de Kock out early, in that situation? But you bowl him in the middle when the score was close to about 80, 90 already. As far as I'm concerned, at that stage, the game was already lost.
Let's move on to Pakistan. Let's give them a couple of minutes. They must win tomorrow, and if they do, they will have a shot at making the semi-finals. John, your crystal ball, they would have to win by a huge margin to overtake New Zealand in the net run rate. Your expectations and your prediction, John.
Put it simply, Dale, I don't think Pakistan will overtake New Zealand. Mark you, over the years, Pakistan has shown us to be such an unpredictable team. But I don't, even if they win the game on tomorrow, I don't think their net run rate will overtake New Zealand. I think the net run rate is it's going to be a challenge. So I expect New Zealand to go through. And the New Zealand, who they lost to in the first game?
No, it was the game was washed out between.
That was a no result. That was a no result game.
No result. That's
right.
Yeah. So yeah, they win tomorrow. They have 3 points. Yeah, I don't think Pakistan can overcome the net run rate deal, even if they win tomorrow. I mean, unfortunately, they have a shot, but that's about it.
Okay. Professor, your thoughts on that game?
Well, my opinion as to whether or not they should go forward and what I would like not to happen is a different two things. Personally, I want both Pakistan and India to be sitting on the sidelines and watching the final, the semifinals and the finals. Why do I say that? They have brought a certain amount of distaste coming into this whole platform, and I would love to see the game finished without this picture of that being a conversation when the game is finished. I want them to be sitting on the sideline, while the game is being played with this sportsmanship, without anyone that is tainted by a political controversy that might have impacted the preparation and the mindset of a Pakistan who came into the decision mode very late. And I asked myself, what impact did it have on the Pakistani players? Okay, we're 7-8 days before the tournament starts. They're in limbo. And we're talking about mental fortitude and mental preparation to go to a World Cup. And they are sitting at home with their family and they're saying, well, the government is here interfering in this business and we have no choice because otherwise we're going to be, we're going to be banned or tariff. No, not tariff.
You never know, they might be taxed in some way.
But I'm just saying, that I feel for the Pakistani players because this politics, we know that, prepare it's like for a game on a short order decision. Okay? It's a mental thing that you're preparing yourself for a marathon, not for a sprint. I mean, we look at, was it Zimbabwe who went home without a sponsor and was lucky to come back? Okay? Because I think they had no sponsors for the game. Was it Zimbabwe? One of those teams. Okay? And you have to ask yourself, how mentally prepared are you when you don't know if you can get to the game? Okay? How mentally prepared is the West Indies when they are now challenging to get into the quarterfinals or the semifinals? And, they might be bunking up 3 to a room. Okay. What type of, privacy do they get to meditate when, this guy snoring in the background and you're trying to sleep? And you ask, what impact does it have eventually on their performance when they get on the field? It's not measurable. Okay? So you want to make sure that all of them have the same opportunity and the same conditions as a India who has all the money, as a England who has all the money, okay? That these guys are not all 1 to a room and your guys are 3 to a room, okay? Because, Brother Gus, I know you're out there, so I don't know the conditions that you're playing under, okay?
I can guarantee you at this point in time, these young men are having single rooms.
Okay.
In my time, we had to share. In my latter days, when I became vice captain, I had my own room. But when I was in the early days, you really actually had to share rooms. I think it came about the single room because of the match fixing allegations and stuff throughout the world that, they needed to make sure everybody had single rooms. So if anybody was accused of match fixing in a particular room, they couldn't say, well, it's not me.
That's interesting.
I mean, you really meant it wasn't me.
It was me.
But Dale, and when you look at both Sri Lanka and Pakistan, they're made up of a lot of all-rounders. And really no out-and-out batsman. I mean, Pakistan has Babar Azam, I think. But it's mostly all-rounders. They make up the team, a batting all-rounder, a bowling all-rounder. I find that quite interesting.
Yes, definitely. Gus, can you shed some light on that?
Yeah, my biggest concern at this point in time with the World Cup as it is the integrity of the games that we're going to be seeing. Even when I looked at the game today, I looked at parts of the game today, England versus New Zealand. And at one stage, I was really wondering, really and truly, if the game was played at the same high intensity level and same seriousness. England had already qualified for the semi-final, whether they lost today or not. New Zealand basically was trying to make sure they actually qualified when they would be qualifying as top of the group. And I was wondering if some of the plays that I saw, I was wondering just how focused and serious, they were. Maybe the young Ahmed guy didn't read the script. because he came out and played like if he was playing on a different surface. When I looked at some of the dismissals of the English players, I was wondering, did they really hit the ball or is it my imagination? I would think in another situation like that, some of these outs will never be out. They will be hitting that ball out of the ground. But then again, that's just the way it goes. I think technically or tactically, the New Zealanders may have, miscalculated it with the bowling not taking what's his name, Phillips off earlier because he was going for a lot, but they continued to bowl him. So I think the 18th over, they should have gone back to the seamers, possibly could have made a difference. But as I said before, my problem now with the Pakistan-Sri Lanka game is whether or not Sri Lanka will come out and play the kind of game that they need to play for their supporters to make sure their fans really know that they are in a World Cup and they are there seriously to win a game or just to go out there and go through the motion. And that's one of the problems you have when, fixtures are so designed to really and truly benefit one or two teams. When you look at it really and truly, you have an India situation where they always seem to play their games last, if you want to call it that. So they know exactly what the equations will be if they have to do X, Y, or Z to get in. They play at certain times, they play on certain surfaces. It makes it so easy for those top teams. I mean, when you look at it, even in the Caribbean, when these India comes to the Caribbean, they play at 10 o'clock in the morning. It is more to maximize basically the monetary benefit that they can get by their supporters watching the game from home. So these are things that ICC will have to look at the integrity of the game and is it fair for everybody across the board? And I think we had arguments or we had discussions about this precedings. At the end of it, it's all about maximizing television viewership if Australia plays against West Indies, as opposed to if they play against, Zimbabwe or somebody else. So, that sort of thing we have to really be conscious of in the world sport. The integrity of the game has to be paramount. And when people look at sports, they must see it as a contest that is fair between two competing nations, and at the end of the day, that is really what the whole sporting culture should be about. But at the end of the day, as they say, money talks and everything else.
Yes. Money talks, nobody walks.
Well, we come back to that question, and just for those who may be curious, essentially Pakistan would have to win. If they bat first, they have to win by at least 70 runs. And if they bowl first, they would have to win with at least 50 balls to spare in order to overtake New Zealand. So they know what has to be done, and the world knows what has to be done. So it will be interesting to see what Sri Lanka will do, because for me, they are perfectly capable of beating Pakistan, and I expect a close game.
Yeah, I think all things being equal, as what I said, all things being equal, they have to prove to themselves and
Yes.
also to their fans, to the people who watches cricket, that their integrity is intact, not just go out there and go through the motion. At the end of the day, yes, they are Asian counterparts. And maybe, the back of the mind, they will certainly might want Pakistan to get in. But I think they have to get in there on merit and not necessarily by, a team not performing to the best of their ability. I think that is what is going to be of,
Yes.
some concern to me personally, having seen cricket, having seen people do tactical stuff and everybody turn a blind eye to say, well, it's the tactical decision to leave this one out, the tactical decision not to bowl X or not to bat X or not to, these sort of things happen in games which benefit others. So I think that the integrity of the game will be tested hopefully tomorrow. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, yeah. And yes, and I think the semi-final matchups will be very crucial again, because more than likely England will play the winner of India and West Indies.
Yeah, most likely.
Your thoughts on that, Gus?
Yeah, I think South Africa is already secured first place when you think about it. I don't see Zimbabwe beating South Africa. That will be another great upset, but I don't see it happening. I would think that West Indies, India, would be either or to play against, whomever is it in England.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as the West Indies team, but what I would like first thing on that I hope may have to do is to try and win the toss, give themselves a chance to possibly chase a target, because it seems to me that is what West Indies want to do. And most teams that win against West Indies will obviously insert West Indies. Hopefully that West Indies approach will be a lot more, sedate. When I say sedate, not in the sense of going slow, but a lot more thoughtful in their approach, looking at 200 plus will be the kind of score they'll be looking to put on the board in order to challenge that India batting lineup. India, for their better part, the fact that they lost the first game would have put the fork in the wheel, but they came back and they put some runs on the board. They're going to be a bit more confident going into the final game against West Indies, home crowd, home support, expectation. Yes, that is also a weight on their shoulders, but they seem to be able to lift themselves for it, and therefore it will be battle royale. I still believe that we have the resources to be able to come out on top, and I'm looking forward to it.
Cool. Gentlemen, as we're wrapping up, John, Gus speaks about the 200 run mark. Now, with West Indies batsmen and with the bowlers, have you seen anything, John, that would tell you that there is a change in the mental approach to the game as far as mental awareness is concerned and, mindfulness and all those mental techniques, mind power, mindfulness? Have you seen anything to make you feel confident?
Well, I hope that the loss to New Zealand did not damage their mental fortitude, because they seem to have been on a high mentally, especially after that the first win in the Super 8. And I don't know if they went into that New Zealand game overconfident.
South Africa game.
I keep saying New Zealand, South Africa game. If they went into that game overconfident and didn't because even in a post game interview, Shea Hope talked about not adapting quick enough to the surface, and that they should have scored maybe 40 to 60 runs more in that game. And so I don't know if we were overconfident going in there, and the loss probably has helped us to refocus now, reset ourselves going into the India game, knowing what we are up against. And it's a win. This is a winner take all, because you win this and you're into the semi-final. You lose this and you're going home. So hopefully our players have refocused now, have reset themselves mentally going into Sunday's game.
Okay. And Professor, you'll have the last word, but Gus, I'll come back to you. Have you seen any evidence that something is clicking up here? I know Shepherd and Holder showed us what they were capable of doing, but especially in the bowling effort, were you concerned about anything with the bowling at that point?
Yeah, let me first of all congratulate both Holder and Shepherd on a record, 7 wickets to hand. I think it would have been one of the highest in the T20 tournament. So it was a record. So that in itself should give those guys some confidence. It was Shepherd's first 50 at that level as well. So I think that that should put him in good stead going forward. As far as the bowling is concerned, we look a little bit toothless. Let's put it this way in terms of our bowling. The bowling just didn't look as effective on that surface at all, at all. I think that when you look at all the bowlers, they struggled, even, that Chase got a wicket. But at that stage of the game, I thought the game had already been lost. To be quite honest, and he still ended up getting hit for a few in the last over. So, which would look like a good, after 3 overs, maybe 1 for 20 looked good, but by the time he finished his 4 overs, it was 1 for 46. The other bowlers themselves, the fast bowlers, Ford started off reasonably okay, one or two decent deliveries, but again, inconsistency plagued us there. Holder, the same thing, a bit short. You also had, Shepherd, just I think bowled just a few. And of course, the biggest disappointment for me was the Sama Joseph in the end, who, really and truly didn't seem to have a consistent line at all. Too many balls were going down the leg side and stuff. So again, maybe it's an off day for the bowlers. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, but I know, as I said before, they're going to be up against bowlers, batsmen who are a lot more competent, than possibly what they would have faced earlier on. And that puts pressure on you. Maybe a good ball goes for 4 or 6, and then of course it makes it a bit difficult. They will have to regroup. They will have to believe in themselves. I said they have to go back to the basics. They got to go back to what works for them. What is their stock ball? You must have a ball that is the best ball. If it is an outswinger, you have to consistently try to bowl that outswinger to the best of your ability. And I think that is where we're going to have to be as consistent as possible with the bowling. And of course, back it up in the field.
Professor?
Yes, Brother Dale. I think I said the team was, that the team was peaking before the tournament started. That you could sense a sense of confidence growing with them. And I think what Etemaya's performance sort of solidified that image. Okay, that yes, we know there was potential. And I think that he had a tough out, in the last game. Okay, you have to say he was caught on a shoestring catch. He never got started. I think he made 3 runs or something like that. 2. He never, and maybe that's what Sheo was really speaking about, that is one of his top guns came in and never really played that defensive game we were speaking about, so that it's until he could study the pitch, okay, and get a bead on the bowler. And so that takes me back to the coach, because I'm observing also the coach sitting in the stands, as the camera will go back to the coach. And I don't see players or the upcoming player, sitting, for example, by the coach as they're analyzing where they are in the game at that point and what he's saying to him at that point. If we lose a wicket and you going next, what might be the best thing to do? Even though you might have some pre-game conversation. Okay, I don't know if there's a psychologist or as we said, who is traveling with the team, so that when you're in the stands and you see wicket fall and you see someone goes out there and after 10 minutes wicket fall, how it is affecting the guy who is sitting there padding up. Okay, that he might consider that a Rutherford is a better batsman than him, and Rutty just went out there and is coming back. Okay, and it's you're going to the ring, and you're going up against Mike Tyson and it's Holyfield, and Holyfield only lasts 1 round and it's you next. You understand? You're like, okay. You understand? And your manager is saying, you can beat him, go ahead.
Yeah. So you got to make sure you have a good glass of joy,
Yes. So when you see King and when King and Hope does the last six overs, wasn't survive the power play, you're like, man, these guys are firing bullets, and whether or not at that time, your psychiatrist or your emotional coach is saying, just relax, relax, let's go back to the coach where we sat down and talk, refocus. Because when you see one guy's 2, one guy's 5, one guy's 7, you're like, hold on a second. Are you guys in a hurry to get back to the pavilion? Because I am saying, listen, just defend the wicket and frustrate the bowler. Okay? stay out there for, as you know, bat long. Even if you're not making any runs, bat long. It slows down the whole process. It keeps your people sitting in your teammates in the stands, watching you defy gravity. Okay? When Boomerang come, play him in, pound him into the ground in front of you every time. I don't want a single. I don't want a 6. I don't want a 4. I just want you to see the ball coming back at you and to let you know I am not going anywhere. Okay? Just that type of mentality. Okay? He's firing and all you're doing is blocking. You're not throwing in the point and he's saying, this guy's tiring me out. I just bowled 3 overs. This guy made 3 runs and he's still there. Okay? And my 3 overs are supposed to bring value to the team and I didn't get a wicket. Okay? I mean, when you talk about going to England to study the game, those guys have been playing cricket for a long time. Okay? And so that when they talk about the science of the game, don't think about yourself. Think about the pitch and the ball. Okay? And your job is to make sure that the pitch doesn't play against you and the ball does not hit your stump and go into someone's hands. So all you did look for a safe spot to punch the ball. Just a safe spot to punch the ball. That type of mentality with our young cricketers might not be there as yet. So I want to see them sitting beside their coach, Say, you're up next, okay? Here's the deal, We need you to bat long, okay? That's all we need you to do. The singles, just run the track. The 4s will come between. But when they go there looking for 4s and for 6s, they're back in the pavilion before you can tie your shoelace. You have to wait for the next guy to pad up. And that now shows immaturity. So I'm saying the coach, when you look at how fast your wickets are falling, you should have been slowing down your players and say, listen, don't go there and come back here in 15 minutes, okay? I don't want to see you for the next 2 hours. Okay? Plant that in his head. That coach say, you don't want to see me, so I better stay out here. Okay? In the process of doing that, then the mental attitude is strengthened. Okay? Because we don't know what those other teams are saying to their players. That this guy, this guy is talking about you behind your back, says, have you ever dinner? Okay? Because they're doing everything to motivate their players, So this guy says he's got your number. Okay, so you better change your number. All of those things are played out within the game because as a good captain or a good coach, they're looking for an edge. And you should always be making sure that your members, are going on the field thinking that they have the edge. Okay? Wear this guy out so that we face this guy coming up. We don't want Boomerang. How much, if he's going to pitch 4, let us get through his 4 overs. Then let's go to work. And if you do that, then they're going to say that you have smart cricketers playing against you. Okay? Yes, sir. That is part of my response to and my expectation. I think they know they have a solid team. After what Etmaya did, the whole YouTubers lighted up talking about the West Indies team. Yes. I mean, they were the talk of the town. Okay? So it doesn't go away in one day. They still think you're a talk of the town. Okay? You went through a slip and you fall, get up, get back on that bike and let's go back to work. I expect them to blow India away, sir. Blow India away. Because India does not have a pushover going up against. Blow India away.
Thank you, sir, Professor. And Gus, I'm coming back to you again. India has had their Waterloo, so to speak, and they have responded. Maybe not as convincingly as people think. West Indies just lost their first game, and we're looking for them to show that mental resilience and that fortitude that we expect from them in this game in particular. What are the signs that you'll be looking out for to see that they are on top and they have rebounded from this loss against South Africa?
Well, I think like assessment will be very important going forward. Assessing again the surfaces that you're going to play on. I think they're playing in Calcutta. I think West Indies would have played there before, so they would have had an idea as to the pitch and what the conditions are like. They will be looking at, where the wind is coming from, all the little things that will make up a game plan for the Indians. And I think at the end of the day, their confidence level, yes, it would have taken a hit. I think they have a psychologist on board with them, and I'm certain that they would have spent some time making sure they fill their jar up with confidence going into this game, knowing what is expected, what are the rewards at the end of the day, what it would mean not only for their team but for the Caribbean. All these things would have been spoken about, and all the players would be hopefully going back to when they performed well, how they felt, what that success looked like, what that preparation looked like. And I think they would have been going through their paces over the last day or so, and even tomorrow, to fine tuning their game as well. Their skill sets, whatever can be improved, will be improved, but more importantly, will be their thought processes and the assessment of conditions and the opposition. So all that will be taken care of, no doubt about it, and they will be coming out. I'm certain they'll be coming out ready. But in saying that, the opposition will be doing the same. They will also be doing the same. They will be going back. They would have just, beaten Zimbabwe. And one of the things they would say, okay, West Indies scored 254, we scored 256. So they will also feel very confident going into this final game as well. They're at home. As I said before, they're going to use the crowd to their advantage. They don't seem to be too overawed by that. So because they're used to playing in front of their own home crowd. And I think they also will know what is at stake as well. So I think both teams will definitely be geared up for this game. I think that the edge will always come on the day who execute better, to make the least amount of mistakes. But I think it will be, at the end of the day, I do believe, as I said, West Indies still have firepower that they can utilize to the best of their ability. So my mind and my emotions and everything wants West Indies to win. There's no two ways about it. So I will leave it at that. They are my dark horse. Somebody said call them the maroon horse, and so I'm hoping that my maroon horse gets to the semifinals, and that will put paid to Professor concern about India and all their wealth being out of it, right?
Hey, Gus, did you have a psychologist in the dressing room when you played?
No, we didn't have a psychologist. We were each other's psychologists. But I think it's modern sports today. I think the young people have a lot more possibility to really actually keep their mind
Young people weak.
Yeah. No, I would say weak. They seem to have a lot more to deal with. Maybe spend a lot of time on social media, listening to what people are saying and what they're not saying. That influences so much of their thinking today. That makes it a bit difficult for them to focus sometimes. So they need a little help. And of course,
as growing up in Jamaica, I see them say lightning clap on the weak heart crack.
Yes, absolutely. But Gus, you're one of the not few, but West Indian cricketers especially, who was publicly, before it became a fad for people to talk about the mental aspect of the game and mindfulness, and you hear people using these phrases. You have addressed it in your book, and you would have been exposed to cricket at the highest level. And we all know what it means. But back in those days, and you're a winner, you are a winner. How conscious were you and your teammates about the mental aspect of the game?
I think we were aware of it. I think some of the things we did was quite natural, really and truly for us. And maybe some people will say it became easy because we always felt if we prepare as well as we can, at the end of the day, the physical fitness of our players, we want always optimum physical fitness. And one says if you're physically fit, mentally you are a bit stronger. They always tell you tired minds cannot think. So we felt that we were mentally alert all the time. We were aware. We did our own research. We never had the benefit of, of what we call video analysis, etc., etc. We were our own video analysis. We would look at players, whether we played against them in the county, whether we played against them in the states, and we will sit together and we will work out their strengths and their weaknesses. And therefore, we would share that information with each other. If there's a player we never saw before, he's new to the team, we will play against him possibly once. It will take about possibly 5 or 6 overs, and then we realize, hey, this guy is a backfoot player, or this guy is a front foot player. Maybe this guy is an offside player, maybe he's a leg side player. We'll test him out with a few bouncers, and you realize maybe he can't hook, or maybe he could hook. So, these are some of the attributes that we had, and we learned from it. We were able to pick things up really quickly. So at the end of the day, we found ourselves, we put ourselves under a lot of pressure at training. We felt if we train as hard as possible, against our own players, we went in the nets and faced the Michael Holdings, we faced the Joel Garners, we faced so many of our fast bowlers. In fact, there's a story, I would tell, not a story. This happened in real time. We were in Adelaide, and we had these nets, 5 or 6 training nets, and we had about 6 fast bowlers. So you always had 2 fast bowlers per net, running in at you. So you had 3 nets running. And I remember one particular net, you had Colin Croft and Sylvester Clark. And not many batters wanted to go into that net because these guys would be bowling the length that they bowl in the game. And that length was short of a length. They wasn't going to be pitching up balls for you to drive. So people were getting hit, people were getting hit left, right, and center. We decided as batters, this is to ask the captain to have a discussion with these fast bowlers that we have, and we had this meeting. And the consensus was basically, go and get yourself some helmet, go and get yourself some chest pads, go and get yourself some arm guards.
and some Benji.
Because the fast bowlers are not going to change their legs just to satisfy you. Because one of the things that Colin Cross said, will you go out there and tell Dennis Lilly and Tom to pitch it up? No. No, they're going to bowl, so you got to be prepared for that. So it was preparation for that. I got my nose broken in the net of Colin Croft. I to tell you, these are the sort of things that you have to go through in order to prepare yourself for the opposition. So when you prepared in that way, you really went out there, you feel even more confident because no team in the world had 4 or 6 fast bowlers that we did. Even when we were doing fielding drills, catching, Clive Lloyd used to hit that ball so hard. When you catch it, your palms, inside your palms would swell. You had to now go and put it in what you call, they used to give us what there's a thing, salt, some Epsom salts.
Yeah.
Where you would soak it overnight, your hands in that sink with ice and everything, because the next day you are catching practice again. You couldn't go back next day and drop catches. You had to take the ball. So, I mean, the intensity of practice also helped us to develop that mental toughness. So when we went out in the middle, it made it a lot easier. Yes, you did reading, you read the books, you read, about other athletes and the way they prepared as well, not only in cricket, but in other sports. So these are common practices that we were taught when we played the game. So we now trying to pass that on to youngsters in a different way. And I saw the deficiencies when I was coach of under 19 teams, under 15 teams, and I was able to pass on the same thing. Whenever I go with a team, I would make sure I carry a lot of books on, things like the power of positive thinking and all these different for the guys to read. So each room would have a book to read. Some of the books I haven't got back yet. But you will read these books and you will have sessions where you sit and you'll say, tell me what you learned from the book. And it's sad because this is how we were able to identify that we have some deficiencies in some of our young players. Some of them found it difficult to even read, and that was so sad when I saw that as a youth coach, that some of our young players couldn't read, they couldn't write properly, couldn't do signatures, stuff like that. And that worried me because having worked in systems outside of the Caribbean, I worked in Australia, I lived in Australia for a while, I worked with Australian youngsters. I'm not saying all of them, but what I'm saying, those who were involved with the sport, the cricket itself, they were at a different level of understanding and appreciation of their former players. They don't understand who Sir Don Bradman was and what he meant to Australian cricket. So that culture was inculcated in those youngsters from small, and we were yet to do that in the Caribbean. try to introduce it. Some people rejected it, and at the end of the day, so that's where we are. So when I saw their deficiency, used to give youngsters information about, building an inning, information about what a game plan would look like, how we set it up, X, Y, and Z. And then when you leave a meeting, most of the paperwork is on the floor. These are some of the things that you saw. So I would pick it up, and then that's how the book came about at the end of the day. At the end of the day, some of the same information that you gave them over the years is in that book. So I mean, like everything as it comes out from an experience that you have, some of the good, some of the bad. I remember as we talk about coaching, my best time in coaching was a young under 15 team in England when we won the Qatar Youth World Cup. To me, those youngsters were joy, and some of those youngsters went on to play for West Indies. Young Ramblin, S.M.N, you had Santoki, you had Xavier Marshall, you had a few, youngsters of that team who ended up playing for, their national teams and West Indies team. Those youngsters were not those to hard work. It was a group of young men, I can't remember all the names, but there were some young men who were prepared to work. I remember having sessions in England, and England is cold even in the summertime. And when you finish a session, you say, right, let's go, time to go. These guys say, can we do some more? Can we do some more? These were the 15 youngsters, And so it wasn't surprising when we actually won the World Cup because they were prepared to. I haven't had that kind of experience after. Most times, something asks you when session will finish.
But Gus, we have won 2 under 19 World Cups.
One. One under 19, one under 15, one under 19.
Under Hetmeyer.
Under Hetmeyer, yes.
Okay. And we just played another World Cup under 19, and we have identified a couple of pretty good players. Why is it you look back at the Hetmeyer team, and Hetmeyer is the only one, I think, who has come forward into the senior West Indies team today? Well, what is preventing our youngsters from advancing?
Yeah, one of the issues we've always had with under 19 cricket, even though we perform very well on under 19 cricket, what we found that if there's not a space between under 19 and the national team, where like under 23 team, where they can continue that development. Because once you didn't get into your national team at 19 or 20, you seem to be lost. You then seem to fall back along. So what happened is that from the time you finish the under 19, you now have to make sure your national setup bring you into the fold, bring you into their national setup and say, okay, you are the future, let's work with you and see what happens. But the minute you didn't make your national senior team, then it made it very difficult to see the growth and development of some of those players that we identified. It happened even at the under 15 level. We identified a nice little group and said those guys will be the future. They didn't make it into the under 19 at that time, and some of them fell through the cracks. You didn't have under 17 to bridge that gap, to continue to work. And that's always because of the lack of finances in the Caribbean to continue that development. So we continue to say the same thing over and over. Every single year, we have a good under 19 team, maybe 2 or 3 players who were 17 and are playing for 2 or 3 years in the under 19 tour. But once they reach 19 and they can no longer play in the under 19 and don't make their national team, whether it's Trinidad, Barbados, Guyana, they then fall through the cracks.
Yeah, thanks, Gus. I think you answered that very well. And it's the continuation, moving on, the transition from junior level to the senior level that becomes very important. And can they break into the national team? I remember we used to have the under 23 team. I remember Dujan was part of that setup and other players. And so you need to find a way to get them involved. But if they can't force their way into the national team, then they become maybe discouraged and a little bit stagnant in their development. So it is important for them to move on to the national setup, I think. Yeah. Gentlemen, it has been another wonderful, wonderful presentation, I believe. Thank you very much for your participation. And I will give the professor...
1 second.
Oh, sorry. You had something, John?
No, go ahead, Dale.
Oh, okay. I'll give the professor the honor of closing off this installment of our program?
Well, let me say, gentlemen, thank you so much for dedicating this time to communicate with our community. This episode, not only will it be seen by thousands of persons in the current space that we occupy, but what is most important is the history that we are establishing in relations to cricket, or relationship with cricket, and our approach to the legacy of cricket. Because at this stage, we are the pioneers, okay, in the way we are approaching this from a West Indian point of view, okay? There's no other platform out there at the moment that has the credibility, okay? The diversity that we represent in the way we are analyzing and commenting and sharing our knowledge, okay? Not only with the present generation, but with the future generation. They will be sitting down, listening to what Gus Logie spoke about, the discipline, the training that took place 25, 30 years ago, and being able to adjust to it and see what they're doing wrong now, okay? Because even as we analyze, we see that there's a gap, because we should have been standing on the shoulders of a Gus Logie when it comes to mental fortitude, training, fitness, and preparation. So the fact that someone went out there and plowed the field, and we came along and we were looking for fruits, and no one went out and planted anything in the field, okay? That is where we are, okay? So we can address the fact that we have people out there who represent us on a national scale, and they fell through the cracks. And we have to ask ourselves, why? Communicate the reason, and let them therefore go and look for the solution. Let them go find those lost sheep and bring them back into the fold. They might not be quick West Indian team members, but they are good enough to go back to our schools, okay, and work in the development that we speak about on a consistent basis that we need to see, okay? They are good enough to represent, they're good enough to go back and teach our primary school and our high school the discipline and the steps that they need to make to qualify for the under-19 team. Just as we look at our professional cricketers going back to the under-19 and showing them the steps that they need to take to get into the national teams. So I thank you so much for this. We are getting rave reviews from people who are all you're saying is good job, long overdue. The space is only being occupied now, they say, because the space was empty. Because we're not crazy. We're not coming to do something that is already been done. We are filling a space right now, which as time goes along, is going to be one of the bricks that, we speak about, as we say, Dale, brick by brick.
Yes, sir.
Brick by brick. This is the foundation brick. And when we have a foundation, you can build a skyscraper on it. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time. And we look forward to continuing this session with our community. Thank you so much.
Thank you.